All right, President Trump, Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau are set to hold a joint news conference just moments from now. Ahead of that, counter-terror analyst Mauro on the dangers of a border that's way too open, way too accessible, I guess, no matter where you are. It's never been deemed a big worry, if you think about it, between our two countries, Ryan. But I know there are a lot of folks in the Trump administration who are worried about it as well. Where do you think all of this is going?
Well, there's got to be more focus on the Canadian border, because counterterrorism experts have talked about this for years and years, that yes, the Mexican border is getting a lot of attention for various reasons, but there was a study done by the U.S. government that came out a few years ago that found that literally 1% of the Canadian border could be deemed as adequately secure. And there is a history of terrorist operatives coming into the United States or trying to get into the United States from Canada. So hopefully that's on the agenda, but publicly at least, this is something that I haven't seen President Trump really raise.
Do you think there's any danger now, looking at it, where our relations become frayed, these two countries? Because we've always been the best of friends through all types of governments and all types of machinations.
Himself the anti-Trump. So in recent days, he and his supporters have been out there saying, well, we welcome refugees, because they're saying, well, if the United States is not going to welcome refugees in, then come to Canada. But I find the contrast to be a little bit insulting to me as an American, even though I have some criticisms of the travel pause and Trump's immigration plan, because it's implying that we're anti-refugee. But if you look at the executive order, it's a 120-day pause, and it's written in the executive order that there can be exceptions after that period, even from countries that we're not accepting visas from. If it is considered to be too cause hardship on someone, if you reject them, then there's an exception for that. If it's deemed in the national interest to let you into the country, there's an exception for that. If you're suffering religious persecution, there's an exception for that, and that exception could conceivably apply to moderate Muslims who are facing persecution.
Now, if you think about it, Trudeau just made a big deal last week of some of the refugees that, and he's very proud of that and Canada's record on that. How do you think that's going down with this president?
I'm sure he's going to have some not so kind words to say to him privately, and maybe some of that will leak out, as has been the pattern lately. But as Canada touts itself as being a master of vetting, they've had plenty of security gaps that we've seen. Just in recent years, there was an individual who was connected to ISIS who they charged with going to Turkey and trying to engage in passport fraud. But then, even though he was not allowed to leave the country, not allowed to get a passport or fly around the world, he still was able to do that and flew to Syria and then came back to Canada. So don't tell me that they have this perfect vetting system that we don't have. They have major gaps. And that threatens us, because if they let in someone that's an extremist, they can cross the border and then attack us, and we pay the price for it.
All right, we'll watch what they say on that or dance around that. Ryan, Mauro, thank you. The Clarion Project, national security analyst, and we're about